In this unit, we're going to look at collaboration in the workplace. When you start to work for a new employer, collaboration can be daunting because you're working with people that maybe you don't know particularly well, and everyone's got to learn to fit in and find their place. One of the things I think is really important for people to understand are the stages of skill competency and how that makes you feel as an individual. And this applies to any learning process, and going into a new environment, a new work environment, and starting to work with new people is a learning process. But like all skills, it can be improved. So with the stages of skill competency, there are basically 4 levels. You've got unconscious incompetence at the starting point and unconscious competence towards the end. And the easiest thing to do is to liken this to something like driving a car or riding a bike. With unconscious incompetence, when you first go in, really you're unaware of the skill and lack of proficiency. So you're almost in a kind of ignorance is bliss sort of environment, because you don't know what you don't know. You're just kind of trying to take it all in, and that might mean you take a back seat and just do a lot of listening to other people as you're going along. As you develop, what you move into is conscious incompetence, where you become aware of what you don't know, and you're very aware that you don't know it yet, but you need to know it. And that's a very uncomfortable situation to be in, because that is where you are aware of your failings, for want of a better word, or where you need to develop. And the fact that you're aware of it maybe heightens anxiety and things like that. So it's an uncomfortable place to be. As you move along and you develop your skills, you move into conscious competence. And that's where you know what you need to do, but you still have to really concentrate on doing it. So imagine learning to ride a bike. You know, you may be at the stage where you maybe don't need your stabilizers, or you don't need mum or dad to hold onto the back of the saddle for you anymore, but you might only be able to ride confidently in a straight line. When it comes to having to brake or stop, things might go a bit wrong. And the same with driving a car. So when you move into unconscious competence, that's when you're able to perform the skills automatically. You can do them really well, and you don't really even have to think about them. Just like driving a car. We don't consciously drive down the road thinking, I need to change gear now, I must depress the clutch, I need to move the gear lever this way, and so on. It's just something we naturally learn to do. But the most difficult thing for people to cope with is change in the work environment, because quite often you'll move from being an expert with unconscious competence in an old way of doing something straight back to conscious incompetence, where you're acutely aware that you aren't able to do it anymore. And if you spent a lot of time in the unconscious competence zone and suddenly move down to the conscious incompetence, the yellow, that's really, really difficult for people. So not just for yourselves, but for colleagues as well. You may come into an environment with lots of new ideas and new ways of doing things, and existing staff who have been the font of all knowledge and the go-to person may suddenly feel like, actually, I don't know what's going on. That can be uncomfortable. That can also be threatening, and that's something you need to understand in terms of the dynamics in the workplace.